back, everyone. We are talking with Tiffany Phelan, who's the owner of Senior Helpers. We also are talking with Jennifer Stupsky, who's the owner of Legal Stuff, and we have been talking a little bit about the importance of preparing. We're going to talk a little bit about scamming, and this is so much we learn even when we're just during the break. We've got our lines open here for everyone to get entered into win. It's a will-based plan, and you get all sorts of stuff that goes with that. Everything you need, basically.
The will, the power of attorneys, the beneficiary deed, whatever you need.
Whatever you need, and it's a $495 value free to you or anyone you know. Also, if anyone doesn't win, she always gives 20% off as well. So our number here is 602-277-5369, and I'm going to let everyone call throughout the rest of the show. Scamming. Scary, scary. Go ahead.
Is that where we want to start?
Well, should we? Where should we start?
I thought we were going to, let's start with the other
You want to start with
You
the
wanna talk-
assessments. You
Oh
wanna
yeah,
start
the
with
assessment. I forgot about that.
That's
yeah.
okay.
We'll start with the happy stuff. We'll start with the stuff that makes you feel powerful and proactive, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say makes you feel proactive, and it makes you feel confident that you've got somebody in there that's going to, you've been seeing stuff as a child that you see your parent maybe having difficulties, and you're trying to get that across, and the parent doesn't want to believe it. You come in, you do the assessment, and you make sure they understand it.
Sure, and really what this is about is giving people information, and knowledge is power, right? So when we understand more about our situation and what that means in the context of the real world, then we can make good decisions. And so we do what we call a life profile assessment, which is an assessment that is based on over 20 years of research with hundreds of thousands of seniors who've taken used this assessment tool. And what it does is we can help a family and a senior themselves understand the likelihood of them winding up in the hospital anytime in the next 6 months to a year. So the idea behind it is we're going to look at a few areas in which a senior needs to be successful, or really any of us need to be successful, just seniors struggle a little more, in order to live at home. So we need to look at the safety, right? So we'll look at the safety of the house together. We'll look at how we get some of our most important activities done, and so that could be anything from our personal care activities, but even how do we pay our bills, how are we getting our groceries and our medications, things like that. We also look at how well people understand their own medical condition and how to manage that condition. And so these are the things we need to know. If we don't manage our medical condition, we're going to have an incident that sends us to the hospital. So a lot of this is we'll come into the home, we'll meet with oftentimes our senior and maybe one or two or all of their children. I've had 6 or 7 people in a room when we do this before. And what we want to do is hear from the senior what's been going on in their world. If they, sometimes we see things that don't match, right? So the senior's telling me something and I'm seeing some evidence that maybe that's not 100% accurate. So we take all of that into account, and then we sit there and we give some recommendations. And so typically it'll be somewhere between 5 and 10 recommendations of things that they can do in the house to make it a little bit easier to live. They're always low cost. We're not saying knock out a wall and put in a walk-in tub.
Right.
We're not doing that. We're saying things like, hey,
Bars.
listen, I know you've bars, or you've always bathed in this one, but maybe the shower is a little safer to get in. Maybe we should put a rail to get up into your house if there's steps to get up into the house. Little very small basic things that can be adjustments that can be done. So we look at all those areas, we make some recommendations. Some folks we recommend home care, and for some folks it's maybe some of those changes are going to do everything that they need. And then we leave it to the family and the senior themselves. And you know this because your mother-in-law, or your ex-mother-in-law, right? I gave her a bunch of recommendations, and she ended up deciding that home care wasn't right for her. But when she decided what she believed was right for her, and she may have changed her mind by this point, but when she originally decided what she believed was right for her, she did it with a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding
Which
of what the pros and
was so
cons.
wonderful to have
Right.
that information, especially for the kids. One thing for her, but it was great for the kids to be able to call you and talk to you and get your advice while they were dealing with that situation.
It's empowering, and honestly, her daughter really just needed to hear that she was doing the right thing, even though the feedback she was receiving from mom was not entirely happy and positive. We got to walk out together and have a private conversation, and I said, you may not be hearing it from her, but I'm telling you, you're doing all the right things. You're on the right track. You're empowering her when it's appropriate. You're kind of taking the reins when it's appropriate. And ultimately, I think what she really needed to hear was she was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? She needed a third party to just reinforce that.
Any
to her.
questions, though, she was able to call you, and you were able to give her information and advice on where to go. If you're a plethora of information for seniors.
Yep, and I think both of us fill that role too. We've just been doing this for so long in this area that we know if it's not me, I know who it is. If I can't help you, you know what, this isn't quite up my alley, but I know exactly who can help you and kind of connecting.
Well, and even to start out slow, even if they were to have senior helpers in there, just 2-3 hours once or twice a week to get them used to just that help and not do a full-fledged. And that's, I think, what they're afraid of. They're going to lose all that control, but just a temporary thing just to get them used to the idea is a
Exactly.
nice flow in.
Oftentimes, it's just a little bit of extra assistance. It's just how are you going to get your meds and your groceries? I mean, something as simple as that.
Right.
Now, the phone number to call for them is area code 480-360-4141. Check them out. They're 5-star rated everywhere, and it's seniorhelperswithans.com. We were going to talk a little bit about scammers, and we want to talk about that because Tiffany says that a lot of people call them after they've gone through something and gotten scammed.
Well, and even if they have someone around just a couple hours a week, just to have eyes on different things that can prevent a lot of that. But we were talking about it at break, that the Attorney General said there was over $82 million scammed from seniors just a couple years ago. Who knows what it is now? It's probably even worse.
Yeah.
So we really need to keep an eye on our loved ones.
We do, and the other thing is that's why having your papers all taken care of beforehand and making sure everything is done correctly and done with somebody who's got the experience and who is a fiduciary looking out for you, because you mentioned, Tiffany, a couple of times little stories of how people could be just, seniors are seniors, and this is one thing that's going to never change about them. They don't want to outlive their money, and they all are lonely. So they talk to people. Somebody, they might be at, let's say, the store, and they're getting their groceries in the car, and somebody comes up to them and says, hey, can I help you? And the next thing you know, they've moved in, and what did you say? You got 9 people living in the house, and they're squatters.
Good luck getting those out. Yeah,
and
it's
you
nice.
help with that.
Yes, I do actually. But if the kids if they've got their power of attorneys in place, they can take them to the bank, and they're not on the bank account, but they can have access to the bank to see what's going on and to track a lot of those things. And they would find if there was money disappearing and they didn't know about it, or their parents didn't tell them.
What did you want to talk about with scamming? What was the biggest part of scamming that you wanted to get out there?
Well, we're all worried about the loneliness, right? And the fear, and seniors that are home alone tend to talk to whoever calls them. And that's the bad thing, especially with a lot of the artificial intelligence
Exactly.
and a lot of things going on. Don't get gift cards for anybody that calls you. Don't run to the store and do that
I know somebody
stuff.
who did that too.
That's what I'm saying. So if you have somebody, if the kids or if caregivers, senior helpers are in the house, just so somebody's there.
Can you imagine how easy it could be done on anyone? I know even, I don't even answer my phone anymore. You can't answer it. You just got to let them
If you
leave a
don't
message.
know the number, don't
answer it. But here's the thing. Unfortunately, like you said before, they are lonely. They'll pick up the phone, they start talking, they know exactly, they're trained. And if it's so easy to get to someone who is, well, I'm a senior, but I'm a young senior, but can you imagine what it must be like for the older folks out there who?
But if they think after they hung up the phone, oh my gosh, they start thinking, I think I did something wrong, call APS or Adult Protective Services. Call 911. They will direct you to someone that you can talk to find out
And
for sure.
don't be embarrassed, because
Absolutely
it happens
not.
to a lot of people. I've seen that before. I want you to be, I know we have a couple of minutes before we go. You might want to go ahead and take us out on that, what the final words would be, because then when we come back, I want to talk about finances and reverse mortgages too. Okay?
All the good
We're going
stuff.
to try and get that too.
Oh my gosh, all the different scams. What can we talk about? The phone calls, the mails.
Phone calls, I really think that when seniors are out, especially folks who have, say, a walker or something that makes them look fragile, we've just heard this so often and seen this where they're walking in the grocery store or up to the grocery store. That's a target. If your loved one is looking frail or fragile, that could be a target for a scammer who is going to come up to them and offer to quote-unquote help for a really, really good deal. And then once they're kind of got their claws in, right, once they've got their hooks in there, all of a sudden they're asking
It's
for
too
more
late.
and more and more, and the kids have to come in and get some help.
We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further. This is really cool. I love what we're doing here.
It's fun.
We're going to keep on talking
Okay.
because we keep on going.
All
Are we
right.
getting everything that you guys
Yeah.
want?
I think so.
And then some.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
So we probably need to talk about transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Take them to those senior centers. Take them.
Yeah, getting out and understanding what's in your community. I think
That
is a big part of
socialization.
it. And if you have a
Well, you
caregiver,
said
the caregiver's
you
the
don't
one
want to
planning
be
it
isolated.
anyway.
So do you not want to talk about this here, the financing and reverse
No, we
mortgage?
can do that,
Okay.
because a lot of them,
Do
we
you
always
wanna
talk
talk
about their
about-
fears.
How do you want to do it? Do you want me to talk about the transportation and being isolated first and then that, or how do you want me to do it? Open it
I
up.
think probably the last thing can be the financing.
Okay,
I'm happy to talk about that too, up until I don't know much about reverse mortgages.
okay.
But like, doing private pay, having family assist, using long-term care insurance. VA, all really great options. There's some Medicare Advantage that's starting to see the value now. So CMS is now allowing Medicare Advantage to insurance to, open up and offer this service. And it's kind of come and gone a little here in Arizona, but they're starting to see, hey, listen, if we put the money in now, we're not winding up with people in the hospital costing $200,000, right? Because they broke their hip and then need a 6-week rehab stay.
Right.
So those are all ways to finance.
I can't wait to talk to my dad after this. I'm gonna be like, did you listen?
Did you listen? I know, and I think really the challenge is that it does take a lot of conversations. It's not like come in one time and let's talk about what we're doing. It's just let's start this conversation. You know what?
And see what applies
Yeah,
to
but
you.
Before you're scrambling.
Right.
Before
Mom
you're
passed
scrambling.
away. Now you're kind of, by yourself here, and you're fine now. But like, let's talk about what's available to you, so that as you need it, you know what your
Exactly, you
resources
know where to
are.
go.
Right.
Yep.
Introducing seniors to their own
I'm going to
resources.
open
they
that to
can
the
make their
audience
own.
again really quickly one more time.
Okay.
What? It's okay, I know, I can tell. Here we go. I didn't change that. So welcome back, everyone. We've got our lines open here for everyone to get entered into win. It's a will-based plan, and it's a $495 value free to you or anyone you know. Jennifer comes to you. She is, you are everything and everything to everyone to help them, to help seniors. You are their advocate is really what you are. And she can help you get those papers in order, dust them off and make sure they're done right. And we've got our lines open here for everyone to get entered into win. Our number here is 602-277-5369. And anyone who doesn't win, she gives 20% off anyway. It's a $495 value free to you or anyone you know. I want to talk about people and the elderly and how they feel. You said we don't want them feel isolated. And yet they do. Go ahead.
Well, they do, and that's their biggest fear, is to be isolated or to be lonely. And that's why we have to make sure that that doesn't happen. There's senior centers, there's a lot of places they can go to just to get that socialization, make those friends that they've lost.
And that's really a big part of it. I think socialization looks different ways at different ages, right? And if you're 85, 90, 95 years old, well, the price of admission is that a lot of your friends may have passed on.
Right.
Right? And so all these people, Bridge Club or whatever that they've been doing for many, many years, it looks different now. They're new people. These aren't the people you've known forever. And that's what can set people up to be kind of lonely. Sometimes the spouse is the one who's passed on. Unfortunately, sometimes the children's the one who's passed on.
Mm-hmm.
So really understanding what's available in the neighborhood. And actually, Jennifer, you had mentioned caregivers can take folks to the senior center. And
Right.
that's something that we do a lot of, actually, is getting folks out. People think, oh, caregiving, it's hands-on, bathing, dressing, but no, we actually bring a lot of folks out. We can do nail appointments, hair appointments, going to the senior center, going to a play, going to
You even
get a
take
meal.
them to golfing.
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, we've got folks who don't golf anymore, but their caregiver takes them to the golf course, and the caregiver gets a little lesson and golf skills while they're sitting on a park bench watching the golfers, right? So it can be any kind of leisure activity that somebody may have used to enjoy that they can no longer do on their own. The caregiver can facilitate that for them. Going to a museum, going to, honestly, Scottsdale Fashion Square to walk around in the middle of the summer when it's 115 degrees and you can't go outside. They go to the mall and they walk the mall together. So.
Just
We
get 'em
are
out of the
staying younger, but we're still older, right? And I'm telling you, I know that my mother used to say, I didn't feel old until I looked in the mirror, but she was old and she was living by herself for a while there, and it was tough on her. And it is, especially when you're, like we talked before, when you are lonely and you just want to talk to somebody, or you get somebody that comes up to you. You mentioned it before the break. Can you imagine your loved one going just to the market and they've got that walker, or they've got some kind of one of those grocery stroller things? They know they're trained. They know exactly what to say. They know what they're doing,
They're
and they're going to
targets.
trip you every time.
Yep.
So we want to talk anything more about about this before we go on to the other things, because we wanted to talk a little bit about finances as well.
No, I'm good.
I think finances is a really important part of this conversation, because I think a lot of people listening are thinking, well, that's great, but like my parents don't have any money, or that's great, but they're middle class. It's not that they have nothing, but there is this issue that's going on where you have the haves, right? They can afford it, private pay care or private pay legal services or whatever. You have the have-nots who have a lot of state funding available to them. And then you have the entire middle class, which is probably something like 60-70% of the country, who's going, wait, I can't afford to stay in my house with one-on-one care 24/7, right? But the state won't help me because I make too much for that. So what are those other funding? I think that's a really important thing to consider.
And that's why we talked about the reverse mortgages. I mean, they used to be where we did not like them at all. They took advantage of a lot of seniors, but a lot of things have changed over the last 5 years. And now I've been introduced to a lot of really amazing programs that seniors can take. I mean, any 55 or older can get a reverse mortgage, and they're doing 40 to 70% of the value, and you'll never have a payment for the rest of your life.
You won't have the payment, and you don't have to use the money. You could leave it
They
alone.
were
which is
buying
what my
double
dad did.
homes. Like one was in,
You can buy a home with them.
you could
Right.
have 2 homes and have your vacation home.
Right.
Whatever it takes to enjoy it. Or use that money to help have in-home care. And you'll never have a mortgage and you'll never be kicked out until you pass away.
What a great idea. you know?
And they don't just take the house. If there's still equity in it, because they're only lending 40 to 70 cents on the dollar. So when you pass, if there's still equity, those heirs are still going to get the equity. They
I
don't
think
just
it's
take it.
important for people to have the conversation with, especially someone like you. It's not like you're the mortgage person. You just have heard and seen so much, and that you realize how good this is for people. You're going to do it. You said when you're going to
As
do
soon
it.
as I turn 55. Well, I've been a licensed realtor for
Oh, that's
25
right.
years.
She's also that.
So I'm always trying to find ways to keep them home, because they don't necessarily need to go into a group home or assisted living. Those are getting so astronomical, and the service is not as good as it
It's
used
not
to
as
be.
personalized. I think that's really
true
the problem.
too.
And then the big issue is most people who need help don't need everyday help. They
Right.
need 1 or 2 or maybe 3 times a week assistance to do very specific tasks. And so setting up a scenario where somebody can have somebody come in 2 or 3 times a week for a few hours each time, and then the rest of the week they're independent and on their own, and we've just supported helping them to be able to do that.
Exactly.
Right. And it's lovely what you do in that way, because I'll have to tell you, with my ex-mother-in-law, I mean, I think we thought she was a goner, right? When you first we talked to you, and she was going to be not living on this earth for very much longer. She went through COVID. She got through all sorts of stuff that happened within those months that they were talking to you. she survived everything, and she's better than ever. And now, but her voice, that was the one thing, that she always had her brain and she always had her voice, and it actually made it very difficult. I had said to my ex, I said, you know, what was easier for me, my parents were gone, they were passed away, so they didn't have a say, you know. She has so much of a say that's going on, and it almost holds them back, right, from being able to do what they really need to do.
Well, or if they don't have anybody, there's a lot of people out there that really don't have children, don't have spouses, there's nobody for them to fall back on. All their friends have passed away. That's when you need to look for a licensed fiduciary. Look for someone that can help you carry out your wishes.
And I want to talk about that, because a lot of people that don't have children, that's what they say, well, I don't need an estate plan because I don't have children, or I don't have a lot of money. But it's not about that.
It's not about that. It's about having a say in what happens
Right.
to you when you can't take care of yourself.
We've got our lines open here for everyone to get entered into win. It's a will-based plan. It's everything you need. Tell them really quickly.
It's the last will and testament, the durable power of attorney, healthcare, mental, living will, and the beneficiary deed.
Jennifer is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We've got our lines open here for everyone to get entered into win. And the people that don't win, she always gives 20% off as well. So our number here is 602-277-5369. You can check her out on her website. It's legalstuffaz.com. You can also call her direct. It's 602-457-2333. And then, of course, we're going to go now with Tiffany. Tiffany, what would be some of your final words right now for everybody?
Start the conversation now. That's really important. You don't need to make decisions now, right? Decisions could be made at any point in time, but start the conversation. Have us come in and help you start that conversation with your loved one, and just empower them with knowledge so that they can help make a decision, you can help make a decision together, and it's more of an open conversation instead of this taboo subject of getting old, or right, or having your independence taken. If you are proactive about it, it can actually be a really positive, empowering thing.
I think it's awesome. I know what I saw you did, so I thought it was wonderful. So the phone number to call them direct, they're A+ rated everywhere, and you'll know why. When you work with both of these ladies, you'll understand why. So passionate about what you do, both of you, and you can see it exudes from you. Her phone number is 480-360-4141. You can check her out on her website, which is seniorhelpers.com. Big final words, we've got a couple of minutes here, so what would you want to finish everybody off with?
Just know there's always options. You're not alone, and there's always something somebody can do to help you. If it's not to help you find financing, to find help in your house, whatever it is, there's options. Just
There's
call us.
definitely options, and they're here to help you with any of those, to even learn about them. Go ahead.
Yep, and definitely anything you're thinking, anything you may have gone through, any kind of thing that you think is unique to you, it probably isn't that unique. And for a couple of us who've done this for a couple of decades, you won't surprise us. So you can throw anything at us that you want, and we'll, like we said before, it's either we're going to be able to help you, or we're definitely going to know the people who can.
Absolutely. Again, that number to call direct, I'm going to give you Senior Helpers first. Tiffany's is 480-360-4141. Her website is seniorhelpers.com. She walks the talk. She's there. You go to, do you do most of the assessments yourself?
Right now I'm out on the injury list.
Oh, that's the injury
I
part.
had knee surgery, so I'm not doing a lot of them, but every single person who's on my team has actually done caregiving, has cared for their family members, so everybody is qualified to do this.
And Jennifer's number is 602-457-2333, A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and she comes to you, so it makes it so much easier. We've got our lines open here for everyone to get entered into win. It is a will-based plan, and it's a $495 value, free to you or anyone you know, and anyone that doesn't win, she gives 20% off. And our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. You want to check her out also on her website, which is legalstuffaz.com.